Hi class. I'm going to go over the discussion questions that refer to Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado. Amontillado is a wine, and we learn that the narrator has a basement full of wine and full of bones, the bones of his dead ancestors. The setting of the story is extremely important. It's crucial to the plot. It creates an atmosphere, and it reveals character. First of all, it's set during the supreme madness of carnival season, as Poe writes. And if we know anything about carnival season, we know that it can be confusing, active. You say you're going to meet someone somewhere, and then you don't show up. Even with in a day and age with cell phones, those things still happen. And the narrator himself is taking advantage of that time. He even told his servants that he's not going to be home and to make sure to stay at home. And he knew that they would not return until the morning because he'd given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. So that's, a little bit about the chaos of the carnival season. It's not going to be a big surprise when Montresor, the narrator, or Fortunato go missing for a while. No one's going to be suspicious. Also, the atmosphere. The two men are walking down into the catacombs of this person's home. What could be more creepy? They're walking into a grave. It's very chilling. It's also cool down there. It has to be at least 50 degrees. Somewhere I think between like 50 degrees and 40 degrees or something might be the optimal temperature for wine, if I'm not mistaken. But it's got to be cool, so it is actually physically cold, and it's also emotionally chilling. And of course, the setting itself reveals character. We see how Fortunato is dressed. He's dressed as a jester, as a fool, and throughout the entire story, Montresor takes it upon himself to repeatedly insult Fortunato. He says things like, I'll just get Lucrezi to come in here and taste the wine instead. And Fortunato's like, oh, no, I will, I'll do it. And that kind of plays into his pride as well. There's a lot of moments too where like the details that the narrator chooses to reveal about the event show like his that he's pleased with himself for doing this. We already answered that question about Fortunato. His name is quite ironic because of course he is not very fortunate. And he's dressed as a jester or a fool. Surely during Carnival, during Mardi Gras, you see people in jesters' hats, right? And this story, of course, is set in Venice, another place where Carnival or Mardi Gras is celebrated. Fortunato ends up buried alive, and some people may believe this is probably the worst kind of death one could experience. Question number 5, what is it that causes Montresor to want revenge? Well, at the very beginning of the story, there's a mention of insults. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insults, I vowed my revenge. He's insulted. That's all we get. Do we know what the insult was? Do we ever learn that in the text? No, we don't. And that kind of makes us read on. We're like, maybe we'll get to the heart of this matter. Or maybe one man will kill another and that's the end of the story. It's kind of fascinating. Don't you want to know what the nature of the insult was? And it was something obviously that Fortunato doesn't see as worthy of being murdered, or he doesn't consider Montresor a threat. And that's kind of, the mystery of the author's or the narrator's motivation. There are instances of foreshadowing throughout the whole story. The very wine they drink while they're going in is called the Flasson de Grave. Of course, there are numerous times when Montresor talks about Fortunato and how he should just turn back because his health is precious. And Fortunato says, oh, I'm not going to die of a cough. Well, he's not going to die of a cough. We know what he's going to die of. Montresor even reveals the trowel with which he will bury Fortunato on their venture into the catacombs. His coat of arms, the picture of the snake being stepped on and then coming back and biting that person's heel, with the words that no one insults me with impunity. That also leads to foreshadowing. There's lots of irony in here too. We covered some of those points. Fortunato's name, the fact that he won't die of a cough, and Montresor saying, oh, you'll be missed. A lot of dramatic irony, because we, the audience, know that Montresor has nothing but the worst intentions, or at least we should from that first paragraph. It's been 50 years since Montresor murdered his friend. What does that tell you about the story? What does that tell you about Montresor? Well, it tells me that he is a person who's very pleased with himself. He is very proud of his act. That he is, a very cold-hearted, calculated killer. And the description, too, of Fortunato's struggle at the end also reveals Montresor's character. It reveals Fortunato's character. He takes every opportunity to insult this man who, I guess, insulted him, and we never know why. And also, he's very revealing about his character. And, you might think, wow, is there something I've done in my past that I can remember very vividly? Or do I tend to let things go? It's an interesting moment in human psychology. Now, Poe was known quite a bit for his short stories. He was actually known as the father, if you will, of the mystery. And it's interesting, too, because I think he prided himself most on his poetry, but his short stories are really engaging in what most people remember of Poe.